Iron Might versus the Invincible Army. Who is actually stronger? The road home smelled of soot and cheap diesel. Sergeant Miller stared at the dusty horizon of Eastern Europe through the narrow slit of the triplex. The war was over. Inside the Abrams tank, there was a strange, almost uncomfortable calm. Kane, the gunner, lazily chewed on a tasteless ration, while Rodriguez, the driver, whistled a tune, dreaming of a cold beer back in Texas. They had survived hell, and now their iron beast was rolling toward the rally point to be retired forever. Suddenly, the air in front of the tank shivered. It didn't look like a heat haze. Space rippled like the surface of water after a stone had been tossed into it. An ink-blue spot emerged in the center of the road, surrounded by a halo of crackling lightning. "Rodriguez, brake!" Miller shouted, but it was too late. The multi-ton machine slammed into the Anomaly at full speed. A second of absolute silence, a flash that seared their retinas, and a violent jolt that made their teeth slam together. When their vision returned, they realized the world had changed. The asphalt was gone, as were the husks of burned buildings and power lines. All around, stretching to the horizon, lay a virgin, golden steppe under an unnaturally clear sky. "Where the hell are we?" Kane croaked, trying to tune the radio. Only static hissed in response. The GPS showed a blank screen. They were alone, in a place that did not exist on the maps of their time. They stood motionless for about an hour while Rodriguez tinkered with the engine, which had stalled during the transition. During this time, they were being watched from behind a distant mound. A spy of the Mongol Empire, pressing himself against his horse's mane, could not believe his eyes. A monster had appeared in his lands, flat, roaring, the color of dry clay. It had no legs, yet it moved. It had no mouth, yet it breathed the spirit of death. In fear and trembling, the rider turned his horse. The news flew to the Khan. A devil had emerged from the bowels of the earth, clad in impenetrable armor. The Khan did not hesitate. If it was a devil, it must be subdued. If it was an enemy, it must be destroyed. By noon, the eastern sky darkened with dust. 10,000 horsemen, the iron fist of the empire, moved to intercept. When the first ranks of the Mongol cavalry appeared in Kane's sight, he froze. "Sir, that's cavalry. Real cavalry. Bows, sabers, fur hats. Is this some kind of damn festival?" "Hold your fire unless they attack," Miller commanded. But the Mongols had no intention of negotiating. 10,000 throats roared in a single battle cry. A wave of riders broke into a gallop, and thousands of arrows soared into the sky, drumming helplessly against the Abrams armor like heavy hail. "Fire!" Miller barked. The roar of the 120mm cannon shattered the silence of the Middle Ages. The shell landed right in the center of the advancing Tumen. The earth heaved. A fountain of fire and flesh erupted dozens of meters into the air. To the Mongols, this was no mere shot. It was a volcanic eruption. Horses threw their riders in terror, but the discipline of the great army was relentless. They believed that if a god or a demon bleeds, it can be killed. The tank moved forward, its tracks clattering. Browning machine guns mowed down the ranks of riders, turning the charge into a slaughter. Bullets pierced through 3 men at a time, horses and all. By sunset, the steppe had turned into a crimson swamp. About 1,500 of the Empire's finest warriors lay in the dust. The remaining army recoiled in horror, vanishing behind the horizon. But the Mongols did not give up. They lurked like wolves, waiting for the dark. Night brought cold and silence. Inside the tank, the crew feverishly counted their remaining ammunition. "We've got 10 shells left and a couple of boxes for the machine gun." Kane wiped sweat from his forehead. "If they come back..." They did come back. But this time, they didn't charge in a wave. Thousands of Mongols dismounted and crawled through the tall grass, their faces smeared with mud. When they got close, chaos broke out. The tank roared to life again, hosing the darkness with lead, guided by thermal imagers. Flashes of gunfire momentarily illuminated the crazed eyes of warriors climbing onto the armor, trying to find any gap. They hammered on the hatches with blacksmith hammers and axes. The din inside was so loud, it made the soldiers' ears ring. When the number of dead Mongols surpassed 6,500, the thing Miller feared most happened. The machine gun went silent. The last shell flew into the darkness, illuminating nothing but mountains of corpses. "Ammo is 0!" the gunner shouted. A minute later, the engine died. The last drops of fuel had been burned in attempts to maneuver. The steel giant turned into a motionless box. The Mongols felt it instantly. The beast stopped roaring. It stopped spitting fire. They swarmed the tank like ants. Thousands of hands pulled at the rails. Hundreds of blades scraped against the steel. One of the Mongol officers, glimpsing the faces of the men inside through the vision block, realized these were not demons. They were just strange men in strange clothes. The Khan gave the order, "Do not kill. Surround them." For 3 days, the tank stood in the center of the Mongol army camp. Dozens of fires burned around it. The warriors of the empire roasted meat, drank kumis, and sang loudly, celebrating the capture of the Iron Fortress. Inside the Abrams, it was hell. During the day, the temperature rose to 50 degrees Celsius. The water supply ran out on the second day. The soldiers' lips cracked until they bled. Their minds drifted into a feverish delirium. Miller looked through the triplex. Thousands of warriors sat waiting, their bows aimed at the hatches. They knew, no one can live without water. It was a siege in miniature. The most sophisticated war machine in history had been defeated by patience and thirst. They emerged, 3 men from another world, filthy, exhausted, lost. The great army parted, letting them through to the Khan's tent. On the throne sat the great Khan. On the table before him lay trophies from the tank, shell casings, a modern bayonet knife, and a tablet with a cracked screen. The Khan looked at the captives for a long time, men whose ancestors, perhaps, had not yet been born in his time. "You have killed the majority of my guard." The Khan's voice was dry as desert sand. "My warriors say your weapon steals lightning from the heavens." He stood up and walked close to Miller. "I will spare your lives. I will give you gold, wives, and as much land as a horse can ride across in a month. But in return, you will teach my people how to command this beast. You will show my smiths how to forge such steel and such weapons that vomit thunder. With this, I shall conquer the world to the last sea." Miller looked at his comrades. Kane and Rodriguez were on the verge of fainting, but there was no readiness in their eyes to betray their world. The commander turned back to the Khan. "We cannot do that," Miller said firmly. "This magic does not belong to you, and even if we wanted to, your smiths could not create what requires factories and 1,000 years of science. We refuse." The Khan's face did not change, but his eyes narrowed into 2 icy slits. "Do you think I am asking?" he said softly. "In this steppe, there is only one will, mine. Those who refuse to serve the Empire are not worthy of seeing the sun." The prisoners were led out of the tent to the square in front of the silent, frozen tank. Under the bright light of the same sun that shone in their future, 3 curved sabers flashed. The Abrams tank remained standing in the middle of the steppe, undefeated, yet abandoned. Who do you think would win? Let me know in the comments. Also, what battle would you like to see next?